Yes, Senate. Oh, wait, I can go look at his call.
Okay. Well, here's my question. So I have to, so I don't hear it on here. The audio goes down as a speaker board.
Yeah. Log off and see what happens.
Log off?
It's reporting to the club. Oh, okay.
When I left?
It's still recording.
Okay, cool. Oh, okay.
I have to figure out.
Sorry, buddy. I'll show you my equations later.
He's excited.
Trying not to fly myself. Thank you everybody for being here. Before we get started, I do want to introduce you to a new employee, Olivia. Will you please stand up? This is Olivia. This is your second week. Okay, cool. I'm still on track. So Olivia started at Earl last week. She's working on data preservation project to scan oil and gas well records, and working with Natalie on records room stuff, scanning stuff that is found through that whole process. We are wrangling the madness. We're very excited about it. Anyway, but yes, Olivia's awesome. Please come talk to her today, Wednesday, whenever. Anyway, okay, cool. So with that, no other comments? Yes, okay. Matt is going to talk about his recent work on landslides in Sri Lanka.
All right, thank you, Liz. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, I recently got back from Sri Lanka. It happened. I'm going to talk about a collaboration between us, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the Sri Lankan National Building Research Organization called NBRO, and a collaboration that sort of helps third world countries build capacity for addressing landslide hazards. So I'll talk a little about the work part, some of the landslide stuff, but you might see some more pictures of elephants too as we go through this. Just so we're all on the same page of where this place is, Sri Lanka is this island off of the southeast coast of India, in the Indian Ocean between the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. It's essentially exactly on the other side of the planet from where we are. It takes a while to get there. So some factoids about Sri Lanka. It's got an area of about 65,000 square kilometers, which is kind of about the size of West Virginia, but a big, right? But Sri Lanka has 22 million people. West Virginia has like, I don't know, 3 million maybe? I'm not exactly sure. So it's there's quite a population density. The capital is Colombo, which is where I spent most of my time. Colombo is about 1.2 million people. Sri Lanka is a democratic republic. It's Asia's oldest democratic republic. About 75% of the country are Sinhalese Buddhists. About 13% are Hindus. There's a handful of Christians, a handful of Muslims. The currency is the Sri Lankan rupee. It's like 300 rupees is $1 approximately right now. Historically, Sri Lanka is known as Ceylon, and sort of an early modern kingdom name from the British. But it's a very old place with a complex history of you know, colonialism and people going to that country. Driving side, left. Steering wheels, other side. Driving in Colombo, pretty insane. I tried to kind of pick up on the subtle clues of blinking lights and honking horns in downtown streets, but it's pretty wild. Sri Lanka is a big service industry country, so they export a lot of tea, cinnamon, rubber, coffee. They make incredible tea. The tea is great. A lot of fruit. About 2 years ago, their economy really cratered, and they were having serious economic trouble. And since then, they've been trying to rebound from that and reboot the tourism industry specifically. COVID had a hand in sort of a decline in tourism there. It's a beautiful place too. It's an island, so there's beautiful beaches, and there's lots of cool things to see. So they're a country that, you know, it's on the rebound, I would say. They have 2 monsoon seasons. We went there kind of in between both of them, so it was still kind of rainy, but it's always hot. There's really minor temperature variation throughout the whole year. It pretty much stays about 88 degrees all year round, even in the high country, which is kind of in the south middle of the country here. There's 3 basic precipitation regimes: wet, intermediate, and dry. The wet area of the country, right, this dark blue, can get over 100 inches mean annual rainfall in a year. Sometimes it can really, you know, go beyond that. A ton of rain. Kentucky gets 45 inches a year, so it was double what we have. But the topography and just where the island sits, you know, in between big ocean bodies, there's complex topographic features that contribute to monsoonal patterns, and you can really have a lot of variation in the rainfall over short distances across the island. For the geology buffs, this is all Precambrian high-grade metamorphic rocks. They're pretty cool rocks, old, messed up rocks. You can see a lot of, you know, kind of interesting folds and structures and faults with the geology. You can see the topographic relief here in this kind of hillshade, this sort of central southern, it's called like hill country, and some steep slopes. So how did I end up here? For a while, I've collaborated with several people at the U.S. Geological Survey Landslide Hazards Program, just, you know, various things, you know, collaborating with them on landslide inventory projects or talking with them at GSAs and other meetings about landslide susceptibility and what they're doing. And I've met a lot of people in the Landslide Hazards Program over the years. But they have a grant program called IPA grant. It's Intergovernmental Panel Act. And it's money that USGS has, they set aside for specifically for collaboration between federal groups and state agencies or universities. And it's kind of money that's set aside for sort of mutual benefit collaboration for projects like this. Really any kind of project you can think of that might benefit both groups, and where both groups can benefit from shared skills and knowledge depending on what you're doing. So they approached me about this grant program. I was like, yeah, it sounds good. It's not a ton of money, but you know, it's a little bit of money. And so I applied for it, and you got awarded this grant. I've been awarded twice now, so that's what helped pay for this. So that was nice. The Landslide Hazards Program has a Landslide Disaster Assistance Team. And this is the group that has now been to Sri Lanka twice. They've been to Chile, they've been to Fiji, I think they've been to Taiwan. The Landslide Disaster Assistance Team is also partially funded by USAID. So the destinations have to kind of fall under the acceptance and purview of USAID, part of the Bureau for Human Assistance. So this is how I got to be involved. A couple of people asked me about joining the Landslide Disaster Assistance Team trip to Sri Lanka. I said yes, not really knowing if I could actually pull it off. I kind of wrote this justification thing, and when Bill was here, he approved it, and I got it done. And so this is Corina Cerovski-Darriau. She is the manager of the Landslide Disaster Assistance Team. She sort of was in charge of the whole thing, connects with NBRO and people in Sri Lanka who we were talking to. Helped me a lot with the travel logistics and stuff like that. This is Gina Belair. She's also a geologist with the Landslide Hazards Program who was there helping out. So the Landslide Disaster Assistance Team assists foreign partners with landslide hazards, technical capacity building, and support our foreign partners in mitigating landslide hazards. That's the overall mission of this group and collaboration. Sri Lanka has a lot of landslides. You already mentioned sort of the wet weather and a lot of rainfall they get. This is the Aranake landslide that happened in 2016. This really shallow mud flow, basically. You can see it's sort of this really small initiation zone up here, and then just things widened out, picked and trained a lot of material, and really had a long muddy run out and destroyed villages and homes down here. 127 people were killed in this event in 2016. This happened on like the day before I left. A couple of headlines from the country. Heavy rains and floods killed 6 people in Sri Lanka, forced schools to close. There were a lot of landslides and mudslides triggered with this. This was from October 6th this year. This is just a snapshot of a news organization and a landslide that's come down. But there were a lot of damaged homes and roads from this event in early October. A lot of evacuations. I'll talk more about evacuations. NBRO has the authority to evacuate people from their homes, depending on the warnings they give out. So who'd we work with? I've already mentioned NBRO. It's the National Building Research Organization. They're part of the Ministry of Defense in Sri Lanka. It's a research and development group for the most part. They work in fields like geotechnical engineering, landslide risk management, human settlements planning, building materials research, and all kinds of engineering projects and engineering project management. So it's a big government organization, but they have a focused landslide research and risk management division. That's who we were working with and talking to. There's about 350 total staff at NBRO, and about 30 are focused on landslides. This is just a snapshot of NBRO's homepage. You can see some Sinhalese text there, a picture of a landslide, but they have a nice website that tells you all about what they do, landslide hazard mitigation projects, slope stability, all kinds of stuff. This is their building. This is the NBRO headquarters in downtown Sri Lanka. It's sort of this small kind of nondescript concrete building. You wouldn't ever really know it's there. They have a landslide early warning center. It's part of their work. So this is just the front door of the landslide early warning center inside. Sri Lankans are doing some pretty interesting, good stuff with regards to landslides. They have maps. This is what they call a landslide risk information portal. We could probably, debate that language a little bit, but they call it a risk information portal, and they call these landslide hazard zonation maps, and they're not bad. They're mostly weighted sum type of maps that weight like 6 terrain factors, slope and aspect, and a few other things. I think they also include geology and lithology, and they come up with these landslide hazard maps. You can see there's some scale issues, like this purple line is a district boundary, so they have some scale matching things they're trying to work out. You can see this is kind of a finer scale. This is sort of coarse, but they're okay. It's kind of an antiquated methodology, and it's something they've done for decades, and they haven't really veered from it. So we were there talking about these and providing them ideas about how to maybe improve their methodology with zonation mapping or susceptibility mapping. So You can view these online. They have like I said, this nice portal. They also have kind of an amazing rain gauge network. Now, some of those exclamation points are like rain gauges that aren't functioning at the moment, but a lot of them are. And there's like hundreds of these across the country. And these rain gauge networks and readings are kind of real time. They help support these early warnings that NBRO puts out, which look like this. This is a Landslide early warning report that comes out daily. So it's not bad, right? It's kind of general, but anything over 75 millimeters of rainfall gets this, level 1 yellow designation. Greater than 100 millimeters of rainfall gets orange. This is about 4 inches of rain in a day. Then you got 150 millimeters, about 6 inches of rain in a day gets red. So they describe sort of the levels here with the amount of rainfall in 24 hours and what could possibly happen with regards to landslides. Then they come up with this table for the different districts, different districts, and who might be on a yellow, orange, or red alert. So it's not terribly focused, but it's better than nothing, and certainly more than what many places in the United States put out with regards to early warning for landslides. They actually have a pretty amazing soils testing and geotechnical lab. This is in the NBRO building. Here's a couple of people doing some just straight up like common Atterberg tests. So doing like plasticity and liquid limit tests on soils. This is a whole series of triaxial machines that they have going. They just got a bunch new triaxial testing equipment, which was pretty cool. But they're doing some really sophisticated shear strength soils testing and learning a lot about soil behavior with regards to landslides and slope stability for the country. So what was I doing and what were we doing? We had about a 2.5-day workshop with NBRO. So this is a series of lectures and actual hands-on exercises that we did with the participants. So I would talk about some stuff, and then we do like an ArcGIS Pro exercise or another exercise with some different software about landslide susceptibility. So it was a good combination of me talking and hands-on stuff. But I talked about some physics-based landslide susceptibility modeling, which they found quite interesting. So we talked a lot about the interaction between hydrology and soil mechanics as a way to possibly predict landslides or characterize landslides in Sri Lanka. We talked about geomorphic and statistical approaches to landslide susceptibility, which is what we work on here. This is work that I'm doing, Hudson's doing, Jason's doing, that we've been doing the past few years here. So we talked a lot about landslide inventory, right? The importance of landslide inventory, how you gather data, what attributes you store for your landslides, who's in charge of that, how do you share information, all these things that are very familiar to us in this room who deal with a lot of data and GIS mapping applications and machine learning applications for susceptibility modeling. The point was to share best practices, share ideas, get each other thinking about ways to approach landslide susceptibility. So let's look at some pictures. This is Dr. Asiri right there. He is the Director General of NBRO. He's the big dog for the landslide risk management division. So we're meeting him, and he came in and kind of gave an opening statement and welcoming to all of us. And then we got started with the workshop. So here's my crew. This is my class. There's always tea that's delicious for the class. So it's about 20 people, maybe a little more than 20 people in the room there. Most of them were in Colombo and worked at NBRO there in Colombo, but there were some other people who came from some different districts were there as well. There's me in front of the class and with captivating the audience with explanations of landslide susceptibility and landslide inventory. You can see we did do some susceptibility. Well, I'll talk about that in a second, but I had some Sri Lankan data that they had given me. So we did create some susceptibility maps for some areas of Sri Lanka. Just more of the participants. They were really awesome. They were super nice and engaging. Sort of culturally, they're quiet and very respectful to, I think, instructors, and like don't necessarily raise their hand and express a question or their opinion right away, but they definitely warmed up and were eager to talk as time went on. These dudes were really great. They were from a neighboring district and came in every day, but were really into it and presented a lot of good ideas. This woman, Hasili, is sort of the lead geologic mapper and landslide susceptibility mapper for their landslide management division. She was super nice. So they were fun people and engaging people to work with. It was a treat. Like I said, they sort of the 11th hour, they did send me some data, some Sri Lankan data to work with, so I could prepare some exercises. This little area, here's Colombo, but this little area here. So this is a LiDAR derived DEM. So we were able to make some hillshades and some DEM derivative maps and do some susceptibility modeling with this data. And students and the participants created some really nice looking landslide susceptibility maps. Here's one, right? This is the area near Kindawa, but they had a landslide inventory that we were able to work with. So many of the things we do here, you've perhaps heard me talk about with our work, we were able to do with some Sri Lankan data, and they seem to enjoy that. There's the whole crew. There's Dr. Asiri. That's Corina, that's Gina, there's me. This guy is funny. He's sort of like the manager, he's just under Director General. And so he was also very helpful and sort of spoke the best English too. I should say the language barrier was challenging. It was definitely harder than I expected it to be. The participants sort of range of levels of speaking English. Some were quite good, some, it was pretty tough. So I just tried to take it slow and repeat myself a lot and go over things, be repetitive, and it was fine. This is Dr. Jaya. He's also a smart sort of landside hazards geologist that's kind of a part manager of this group. Lunch the first day, right? Upstairs, you all have lunch in the conference room. I was like, all right, sweet, lunch. Walk up there, KFC. I'm like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, great, KFC. Like, I'm from Kentucky. They knew I was from Kentucky, but I'm like reinforced that, right? It's like, I'm from Kentucky, and they sort of got it, I think, but not. I don't think they fully embraced that. I live pretty close to Corbin, which is like, anyway, it was funny to have our first lunch, a working lunch, a box of KFC. And this is not the KFC that you get at the, on Richmond Road or in Corbin. It was like a piece of fried chicken and some kind of fried rice with this like spicy sauce. So it was good though. Okay, Colombo. So that's pretty much all the work stuff. If you want to ask maybe more detailed questions about the work, I'm happy to talk about that, but the rest is a bit of a picture tour. This is Colombo, about 1.2 million people. This is a park called Gullface, which is nicely known as Colombo's front porch. It's a huge park with like lots of food and it's just a place where people relax and fly kites and hang out and relax. It's a really nice park, and it's got a nice view of the Indian Ocean. There's actually little beaches over here. it's a cool place. My hotel was like right in the foreground. You can't see right next to this park, which is nice. This is the Lotus Tower. How tall is it? 350-meter tall tower. So taller than the Eiffel Tower. It's built by the Chinese, and my sense was that people like didn't really appreciate that because it was like really delayed in the construction and it being built and when it got open. But it's pretty cool looking. I didn't go up to the top. You can, mostly because it was kind of cloudy and rainy all the time, but you can see it from everywhere in the city. It's pretty cool looking, and it lights up at night, which is pretty sweet. And there's some tuk-tuks for scale there at the bottom. There's about a bazillion tuk-tuks in the city. This is the Colombo National Museum. Just took a stroll through there one day. Really interesting, nicely laid out museum about Sri Lankan history. It goes through all the kingdoms and religious history and stuff like that. But there was a pretty cool geology section with a nice Earth history, evolution of life display in English and in Sinhala. Cool little building, nice grounds. It was just a good little place to visit. I recommend you go there next time you're in Colombo. This is the Gangarama Temple. I went to a lot of temples. It's a pretty famous Buddhist temple, but it's more than temple. It's like this kind of much larger, cultural center, basically, with lots of other offerings. There was like, just a huge group of people there all the time. There's a fair amount of tourists there, but it was really interesting to kind of see all the statues and different poses and gestures of the Buddhist statues. And temples are really interesting, and they're everywhere. Colombo has a lot of flying foxes. This is for Cheyenne. This picture on the left's not mine, right? That's from Wikipedia. But I did see a lot of these things. So sorry about the pictures aren't great. The flying fox, also known as a large Indian fruit bat. These things were this is a tree in downtown Colombo. Like, this is an urban setting. So sorry, you can't, there's one, these black things hanging in the tree. That's them. They're pretty big. They can weigh close to 4 pounds, wingspans 3 feet, 4 feet sometimes. This one's a video. Let me try to. So watch that right there. Maybe I'm not able to play video here. Cannot play media. All right. It just, so this one was hanging there, moving around. It opened its wings a little bit. It was going to town on some fruit in the tree, but that's it right there. Anyway, it's wild to see these things hanging in a tree in the middle of a big city. So we took a field trip to this town called Kandy, which is like in the center of the country. It sits in this valley up in hill country. From Colombo, driving to Kandy is like 2.5 hours. Sri Lankans will say, "Oh, it's only a 2-hour drive," but it's really like, really like 3 hours. Roads are challenging there. Kandy is sort of like considered a Sinhalese, like cultural capital of the country. It's a really beautiful town. This is Kandy. We stopped and saw some interesting geotechnical landslide mitigation projects along the way. This is a big landslide on the way to Kandy. These are big residual soil failures, so they have really thick, silty clay, like saprolite residual soils that cover these slopes, right? Just with all the intense weathering that the terrain gets. And so these things will kind of block fail and not like totally run out on the road. but just sort of be enough of a nuisance to where they got to clear the road and stabilize it. So you can see this really extensive soil nailing stabilization effort. They drill a hole, shove these soil nails in, grout them, and then cover, add a little extra stabilization with the mesh. There's some serious slope stability assessment and modeling that has to go on to do a soil nailing stabilization. You got to know, have an assumed failure surface and have these soil nails go below the failure plane to make sure you're stabilizing the slope correctly. So it's a big project, and we visited a couple of these. This guy is a geotechnical engineer with NBRO. This is Mahesh. He's sort of like a landslide mapper guy with NBRO also. They were our guides to Kandy for the day. This was another landslide mitigation site in downtown Kandy. It was at a hospital complex. Landslide mitigation measures at Nursing Training School, Kandy. So here's another one of these like thick residual soil slides being repaired with some soil nails and some mesh. However, this one crashed inside of a nursing building in the hospital complex. So you can see the landslide is broken through some of the windows here. They had to get out all the people and equipment and hospital staff to clean this up, stabilize the slope. It was not a good situation. We went to the University of Peradeniya, which is a public university just outside Kandy. It's about 10,000 undergraduates. It's a really nice campus. This is the geology building here. They've got like 9 faculties, right, which is like schools or colleges, kind of engineering, science, a whole bunch of others. But anyway, really nice visit. Our guides were graduates of there, so they wanted to show off the university. And we did get to meet with some people in the geology department. This is Dr. Jagath. So he took us around, had tea in his office, of course. This is the GIS lab. This is the rock and minerals lab. It was really awesome. They have amazing samples of graphite. Sri Lanka has some graphite mines, like they have some underground mines and some like pits. It's like some of the most purest graphite in the world. It's like 99% carbon. But it was the biggest graphite sample I've ever seen. It was pretty cool. So it's fun to see the university. Then outside Kandy, we went to the Pinwala Elephant Orphanage. It was amazing. These are Asian elephants. In many places, they run free. Sri Lanka has some big national parks and nature preserves where they are pretty much free to roam. This was an orphanage, so these elephants are actually kind of being trained in captivity. They perhaps have endured some kind of trauma, like they're orphans, so they were left, or they had been hunted, or something happened to them. They fell, abandoned, whatever. So that's what these guys are doing, helping to kind of train them and make sure they're okay. This is a big area, so they're able to kind of roam free in this area. There's about 70 elephants, including several babies that were there. It was awesome. It was just cool to kind of see the hill country mountains in the background. There's like misty, clouds and rain. There's some babies here. We got to see them walk from kind of this area down to this river, and they walked in the river and were drinking, and that was pretty cool. There's some elephants there in the river. There's a herd of them in the stream hanging out. It was awesome. There was like a field trip of school kids there, so it's a touristy place. It wasn't totally remote, but it was pretty awesome nonetheless. This was an article I stumbled upon just a few days after I got back. This little area in Sri Lanka is at risk of another landslide. They've been having a ton of rain in this inter-monsoon season. So there's been some evacuations, more landslides, but why I put this here was this. The disaster relief officials also said there have been minor obstacles in evacuating the families to safe places in the Mahakanda Wata area due to the elephants hanging out at night. So these elephants, I just thought it was kind of funny. The elephants do add a lot of stress to the slopes. They might even cause landslides, but then they're getting in the way of mitigation and evacuation too. So, but the elephants are awesome. There's lots of these guys. Here's our van just parked off the side of the road. We were looking at a landslide. They come out, want to get in the van, had to like shoo them away. Super curious, and I thought they were fascinating. Don't touch them, but they're mainly a nuisance to many Sri Lankans. I figured out, but they're cool. I don't know. Hello, this person was a little baby. So Saturday was pretty much our first day off, and we went down to the town of Galle, which is about 3-hour drive, a little less than 3-hour drive from Colombo. It's on the south coast. This is Galle. Really beautiful beach town, old historic town. This is the beach outside Galle. Again, it was kind of cloudy and rainy, so it's not like the blue water, blue sky, palm tree kind of look. But Sri Lanka does have that. We were just kind of in a intermonsoonal time, but beautiful beaches, really nice beaches. Stuck my toes in the Indian Ocean. It was warm. It felt amazing. I feel like I should mention this because you saw this. I went to a museum in Galle where they had this a little display about the 2004 Sumatra earthquake, which many of us know about. But right, a magnitude 9.1 subduction zone earthquake off the coast of Indonesia in 2004. So that subduction zone earthquake, right, displaces the seafloor. The tsunami wave splits in two, where a big wave inundated Sumatra, right, killing 250,000 people. But the other end of the wave travels across the Indian Ocean and hit southern coast of Sri Lanka. There were, 228,000 total fatalities. 35,000 Sri Lankans lost their life in the 2004 tsunami. And I think it took couple hours for the wave to travel across, for the tsunami wave to travel across the body of water and hit Galle and several other towns in Sri Lanka. So landslides, tsunamis, floods. Sri Lanka deals with a lot of geologic and natural hazards. This is the stuff outside Galle. Again, cool beaches and little restaurants, shops, places to go, more cool temples. This was an old, really big historic temple outside Galle. You can go up in this sort of rotunda area, which is pretty cool. Tuk-tuk for scale. This is Galle. So Galle it was a trading port initially. And it's got this complicated history of the Portuguese arriving there a long time ago, the Dutch arriving a long time ago, the British arriving there. And so there were there's a huge fort there. And the main part of the city sits inside this old fort on the coast. And this is a wall of the fort. But it's awesome. You can like kind of walk around this whole thing, and the city's sort of in the middle. Here's Galle. This is part of the fort. People just like hanging out. It's like a big park, but it sort of surrounds the old part of the city. It was amazing. Really beautiful place. This is also the fort, Galle. People just hanging out. This is a beach right outside Galle. It was an amazing experience. I told people there, and some of you, like State Geological Survey employees don't get to do this kind of thing very often, if ever. So I felt very lucky, fortunate to be invited and get approved to do it. So thanks to the survey for that. But I encourage you to kind of maybe look into opportunities like this, maybe with USGS or maybe with someone else that you're collaborating with, and these things could maybe happen. I don't know if I'll be invited back for another Landslide Disaster Assistance Team project, maybe so, but it was a good experience and a way to learn from other people, but showcase what we do at KGS, put out a good name for us, for the university. So it was good. I ate rice and curry every meal for like 9 days, and I didn't get sick of it once. That's the tour. I don't have a summary slide. This is the beach.
Question?
Total travel time was like 25 hours. I flew from Lexington to Philadelphia to Qatar and the Doha airport, then to Colombo. The flight from Philly to Doha is like 14 hours. And then from Doha to Colombo is like a 5-hour flight. It's a long time. On the way home, I flew from Doha to Chicago. It was even longer. It was like 15 hours. Yeah, it was long. A lot of try to do your best to stretch your legs, and food, Qatar Airways, the food was really good. More questions? I encourage people to go to Sri Lanka. It's a tough place for a lot of people, but it's beautiful place, and the people are great, and there's lots to see, and I recommend it.
Did you stay at hotel?
Can you hear me?
How much was the hotel price?
So hotel, yes, I stayed at a very nice hotel called Gull Face Hotel. That was all arranged by the U.S. Geological Survey. Because I was going with the federal government, we had some extra special treatment. The U.S. Embassy was aware, right, that we were there doing work. We had to be registered with them and stay in a particular hotel that they and USGS approved of. So it was a really nice hotel. That said, it was an old historic hotel, so it wasn't like this big modern high-rise thing. It was an old historic hotel, but really cool, really, really nice. And that was all arranged beforehand. Had a balcony that overlooked the Indian Ocean. Pretty hard to complain. Corlin?
Is the Sri Lankan history, how is it tie in with like Indian history? Or do you know?
I don't really know. I don't really know. I suspect there's similarities.
I saw one of your initial slides. The language was kind of unique. I mean, there's a lot of languages spoken in India.
Right.
And that wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
So
Right. I don't know what different parts of India speak. Right. Sri Lankan speak Sinhala, and I don't know if that's some kind of derivative language that a lot of Indians speak. I'm not really sure.
mostly Hindi.
In India, yeah. Carrie?
Yeah, we just got a Sri Lankan restaurant here in Lexington. Are you gonna go? Did you enjoy the food enough? Can you speak to the food a little more? Because I don't know what to expect, but I love new restaurants.
Yeah, I was aware of this restaurant. I haven't been yet. I will most certainly go. Rachel's been. Yeah. Yeah. The food was really, really good. If you like rice and curry, this is your place. They have a lot of also coconut infused and stuff. So like coconut rice that's really good. It's like not overly coconutty, so it's like just the right amount of coconut, I think. That's delicious. The curries really vary, right? There's hundreds of types of curry, but Sri Lankans love like fish curry. They have a lot of fish. So they love fish curry. They love dal curry. It's pretty spicy. They have these things called string for breakfast. They have these things called string hoppers, which are like little flat beds of noodles that you can pick up. Most people eat with their hands. So you can pick up these little string hoppers and like scoop up fish, curry, and whatever it is, and it like fits perfectly in this little bed of noodles. The string hoppers are really good. They have these things called hoppers, which are different. It's like a crepe that's like formed in a bowl, formed as a bowl shaped, and you can put different stuff in it. So you can put curry in it, you can put eggs in it, all kinds of chutneys and coconut mixes. And so the hoppers are really good. They have a ton of good fruit. So food is a big plus there.
That's awesome.
Didn't
Thanks.
Didn't get sick of it once. And our hotel had it had bacon and eggs, and I didn't have the bacon and eggs because this stuff was so good. Yeah, I had KFC. Yeah.
Well, no other questions. Thank you, Matt. That was awesome.
Thank you. What was last year? What was it?
215, 218.
Careful fruit or caution to the way.